Council in Kalamazoo. And yes, we have the recording, so I'll introduce myself again. Hello, my name is Michael Evans. I'm with the Kalamazoo Literacy Council in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I also serve on the McKay board, but for today, I will be the moderator for this session. Welcome again to the McKay Virtual Fall Conference 2021, Renewing, Recharging, Rebuilding. That is why we are here. And we hope that you are having a wonderful conference up to this point and looking forward to having an incredible session. Before we begin, we have a few housekeeping reminders. First, please visit frequently the McKay website for important updates and information. That's where all the good stuff is. If you want to be able to see the newest and the latest, that's where you get that information. Check out our monthly membership as well. Don't forget to join us tonight. There's going to be a trivia night. If you don't have a team, that's okay, no worries. You'll be able to join who's there and have a good time with everyone who's going to be a part of those festivities. The recordings from today and all of the other presentations that are being given during this conference will be made available to you. We're looking forward to having a great session. Don't forget to check your email. For those who are looking for sketches, make sure that you check the link for the sketch validation form if you need sketches. Remember to complete the entire form by the end of the conference and submit it by Monday, November 8th. That's Monday, November 8th, please. Deadlines matter. We encourage you to be on camera because we like to have a visible learning community. And it's so much better when we can see your faces, though we know sometimes you might be multitasking for other reasons. Please stay muted unless you are asking a question, and I'll be monitoring the chats to make sure that our wonderful presenter can answer your questions if she is not able to get to them. And with that being said, we would like to welcome Teresa Sladick. She is going to be presenting the subject, Improving Equity Through Digital Skills Acquisition, from Northstar Digital Literacy Assessments and Educational Resources. Welcome, Teresa, and thank you for being our presenter.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you all today. I'm going to share my screen. If you see me looking off to the side, it is because I do have the Whova chat open on a different device. So like, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just looking over there in case, and if I miss something, Michael, as he said, will help me answer your questions. So I need to be able to share my screen. And then I will talk to you about digital literacy.
Okay.
Here we go. All right. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. My name is Teresa Sladick. I'm with Literacy Minnesota. And today we're going to talk a little bit about, I'll tell you who Literacy Minnesota is just briefly. And then we'll get into how Northstar got started and how that affects what we do. But mostly we'll spend the time on talking about what's in Northstar. So the assessments, the instructor-led curricula, the self-directed online learning, the learner management system, and the reports. And you know, as I said in the title, this really is not only a digital equity issue, people not knowing how to. So if we think about digital equity, it's really a three-legged stool. So you have to have a device, you have to have some kind of internet connection, but then you also need the skills to use them. And in the past, you know, with all the CARES money, we've seen a lot of devices going out, a lot of Wi-Fi hotspots, which is really great. But if people don't know how to use them, it's pointless, right? They're just going to sit on their shelf collecting dust. So you need to have the skills to be able to use digital information. We also see that there's really a big divide in digital skills knowledge, and it is often along racial lines. So there's been many studies that have been done that show that, you know, that Black workers, Hispanic workers make up more of the workforce that doesn't have, that, you know, has lower digital literacy skills. And this, you know, digital literacy is something that pervades our whole life. So not only is it important for getting jobs that sometimes pay well, but also for education and for things like everyday things like banking and healthcare and just civic engagement. So again, if we are doing a disservice if we're not providing the digital literacy education to, you know, our entire population. So Literacy Minnesota, we ourselves are a nonprofit. As you can guess, we're located in Minnesota. We have been around for about 50 years. And we have 5 schools here in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul. 4 of those schools do teach adults, things like English language learning, reading, writing, and numeracy, citizenship, and then of course digital literacy is kind of infused in all that. And then one of our schools focuses solely on digital literacy. We also provide statewide training to volunteers and teachers who are working with adults on literacy. And because of that, because we've been doing it so long, we just have a ton of resources that are available to you, 98% of which are free. So in that link at the bottom there, I would highly encourage you to go there if you don't know about us already. And just tons of topics from, working on pronunciation with beginning English language learners to working remotely on reading comprehension, and just the whole gamut. So that resource is accessed by people around the country and even around the world. So if you haven't taken a look at it, please do. Nationally, we also have a program called the Open Door Collective. That is a group of national volunteers whose mission is focused on reducing poverty through literacy. And those volunteers are made up of people from different sectors like adult education, healthcare, libraries, prison reform, labor and workforce. Many people who work in organizations that have worked with a similar population and also have similar missions or, kind of connected to literacy. And we advocate for funding and for research and for legislation around literacy for adults. And then of course, nationally, we do digital literacy, which is what we're going to talk about today. So Northstar was started about 10 years ago, and we are used in 49 states and several countries around the world. I do want to let you know that Northstar at this moment is only available in English. And that is something that we, get asked all of the time. Can you translate Northstar into other languages? And we, of course, would love to do that because we're a nonprofit. Well, so there's a lot of underlying coding that has to take place in order to make Northstar compatible with other languages. And by nonprofit standards, it's kind of expensive. And so we are currently in the process of raising those funds, and we've raised about a third and have started the coding project. And we're hopeful in this climate there's a lot of money right now for digital literacy that we'll be able to raise the rest of the funds and have our first translated language maybe out by June or July of next year. And that first language would be Spanish. Once we're able to do that, we have the underlying coding. It's much quicker and cheaper for us to add additional languages. So we are hopeful that that's coming, but at the moment, just so you know, it's only in English. It is also, Northstar is also fully compatible with desktops, laptops, and Chromebooks. Of course, many of your learners only have mobile devices, phones or tablets. And you can use Northstar on those. There's just a few questions, like a drag and drop questions that don't work on the mobile devices. We, however, have just started on a grant that is going to allow us to make Northstar compatible with mobile devices. And that work should be done by April of next year. So that is kind of coming. Northstar, to give you some history, Northstar started out at the request of our local library here in St. Paul during the Great Recession. And they were seeing a lot of people, displaced workers coming in, wanting to improve their digital literacy skills. And they were very happy to do that. But what they were finding was in their classes, they had such a wide range of knowledge that they didn't feel they were really being beneficial to anyone. So they came to us and they said, can you create some digital literacy assessments that would allow us to see what people need? And we have experts on staff. We're connected with national experts. So we thought that was a great idea. And those experts got together and created, started looking at the literature and focus groups and came up with some topics that they felt fell under basic digital literacy. And then for each of those unit topics, they created standards. So the standards are really saying these are the skills that you need to be able to be competent in these areas. And once they had the standards, then they could create the assessments. So standards say these are the skills you need. The assessments then determine if you have them. Because we work with adults in literacy, we wanted to make Northstar as accessible to as many people as we could. And we felt that we could still maintain the integrity of the digital literacy, lesson and instruction, and have it at a kind of a 4th grade reading level. So that would be, for those of you who use CASAS, that would be about like a ELL 211, intermediate English language learner level. Many programs do use it with lower level English language learners and use it successfully, but this is kind of the reading level it's written at. We also decided to make it web-based so that if someone does have a device and internet access, they can access it from anywhere. They don't need a special software. And then we were thinking initially that it would just be used by the St. Paul Public Libraries, and we were kind of blown away by how quickly it gained, this national reputation. And that's really because there's nothing else out there for these lower digital literacy skills, even from how to turn on a computer, how to use a mouse, and at a lower English reading level. So there is a free version that you can all access. And then we also decided that, we wanted to maintain Northstar. And as you know, digital literacy landscape is always changing. And so we wanted to put staff toward that, make sure it's maintained and up to date. And so in order to afford that, we also have a subscription, very low cost subscription model. So today I'll talk about what's in the subscription model, but also tell you as I'm talking what's in the free version. So, as long as you're helping people with digital literacy, I'm happy to have you use whatever you'd like. So I talked about the assessments. We have many different types of organizations using Northstar. It's very flexible. So we have adult basic education, libraries, workforce centers, community colleges, four-year colleges, businesses. And they all, have different structures and different ways they can provide things, or staff that can provide things. So after organizations were using the assessments for several years, we started getting requests for us to create instructor-led curriculum, because many programs didn't have staff that were knowledgeable or had time to create digital literacy curriculum. And Literacy Minnesota has a long history of creating curriculum for adult literacy learners, so that seemed to fit right in with what we were doing. So we started creating instructor-led curriculum. We then had organizations saying, I don't really have space or instructor time to provide, a classroom situation. Can you do something that's more self-directed? And so again, we thought this was a great idea. And we decided to develop self-directed online learning as well. We also have a learner management system that lets you track what's going on and reports, so you can see what individuals are doing, as well as what's happening at your entire site. So these are the 14 assessments that we currently have. I want you to know that no one person has to take every assessment. You can really choose what's most important to the person and to your program. So, if someone just wants to take Excel, they can just take Excel. Having said that, many Northstar programs will give the first three, they're under essential computer skills, the basic computer, the internet basics, and the using email. Because without those skills, it's very hard to do much else in digital literacy. But again, it's kind of up to the learner and then the program. You can see these are broken out in kind of 3 areas. Mostly that's for ease of you viewing it. But we have the essential computer skills, and then we have essential software. That's a little bit Microsoft heavy because that's what was being used when Northstar was first created. It's been updated, but we did just add Google Docs in January because now Google's taken a much bigger share of the market and it's being used a lot. And our intention is that we would add Google Drive, Google Sheets, and Google Slides once we get the funding. The using technology in daily life, these are a little more advanced skills, and most of them are self-explanatory. Social media, for example. Information literacy is that idea of not how to search, but how to search well. So using terms that are going to get you relevant hits, ascertaining if a site, a web page is reliable or not, those kinds of skills. The supporting K-12 distance learning was made because of the pandemic for parents who were trying to help their kids with distance learning platforms. And it has a lot about how to upload assignments, how to converse with your instructor and your fellow students in the platform, how to check your schedule. And so still useful for parents who are helping their kids with distance learning if that's happening, but also many programs for adults are using these distance learning platforms, especially at the community college level. Many higher level training programs require it. So oftentimes you may find that your students, this is something that would be helpful for them to have as they continue on in their education. Career search skills is what it sounds like. And your digital footprint is that idea that, whatever you do online, you're leaving traces behind, and you want to be knowledgeable what those are and make sure that's what you want to be leaving. I'm super excited because we are now working on a telehealth assessment. And I have been talking to people in the healthcare field for probably the last 9 months about what they're seeing and what they expect. And, telehealth is not going away. And it does help a lot of people. It helps people without transportation. It helps people without childcare. It helps people who are maybe rural and they don't have access very easily to a doctor. But it also can be another barrier if people don't have the skills to do telehealth. They don't have the digital skills. And so again, as I'm talking to healthcare providers, they are actually seeing lack of digital skills as a social determinant of health. And often, again, this is an equity issue as well as a digital equity issue. So we are creating this assessment to help you all and your learners and your and healthcare facilities determine who's ready to do telehealth, and if someone is not, how to then help them prepare to be successful at telehealth. When you give an assessment, you can either decide on a case-by-case basis if you want to proctor it or not. And so this is something that in the free version, all the assessments are available in the free version. Anybody can take them who has, again, access to a device and internet. I highly encourage you all to take them just to see what they're like, but also I have never met anyone who has passed all 14 with 100%, not even IT professionals, which is to say that the digital landscape, it's lifelong learning, and we can all benefit from taking the assessments and learning what we don't know. I myself have learned things that have helped me be more efficient in my own job. So I would recommend you do that. Most likely they'll take you 5 to 10 minutes to take one of the assessments. If you decide if you do have a Northstar subscription, you can also proctor the assessments. And proctoring means that you check someone's ID to make sure they are who they say they are, and that you would watch them take the assessment, either virtually or remotely or in person, basically so they're not using any notes or their phone or someone else helping them. So that is, if you are a subscriber, you can do that. And that would then allow them to get a certificate if they passed. Regardless of whether an assessment is proctored or not, this is what, after someone takes the assessment, this is the results page that they will get. So whether they're using the free version or the subscription version, everyone would get this results page. And you can see that it tells you what your score is. And Northstar says you have to have 85% or higher to pass. On the left-hand side, this is going to tell you which of those standards you've mastered. And on the right-hand side in the gray, the standards that you need to improve on. And so this can help then people direct their educational energy into what they might need to learn. If someone is accessing, so individuals never pay for Northstar, it would only be organizations that pay for Northstar. So if an individual is taking the Northstar assessment through an organization that has a subscription, they can then go to this barbell here on the right and click on that where it says practice, and it will take them right to that part of the self-directed online module that they were having trouble with. So it's, again, they pass the module. They don't have to go, they pass the assessment. They don't have to go through the entire module. It really pinpoints those areas where there's room for growth for them. Like I said, Northstar says you have to have 85% or higher to pass. If an assessment is taken unproctored and someone passes, they are signed up with a subscriber site, they can still get a digital badge, like a micro credential that organizations sometimes have digital backpacks that says they passed and that it was unproctored. If it's a proctored assessment and they pass, they would get a different digital badge that said it was proctored, and they can get a certificate. And we initially created the certificates because we wanted to show employers what people knew. And I hear, from all over the place that people have gotten jobs because they have the certificates. It helps. You can put them on your resume, on your LinkedIn page, the badges on your LinkedIn page. You can talk about it in the interview. And especially for people who have been out of the workforce for a long time, who maybe this is their first job, ever or in this country, or who want to move from a more of a labor-based job to more of a desk-based job. This can be really helpful in doing all that. What we found, and many organizations do require people to pass some of the specific Northstar assessments to get into their training programs. And they'll often have them do this on the free website and just take a screenshot of their results page or whatever it is. But we are seeing that happen more and more. However, what we found that's really, really important, even more so than getting jobs, is how much confidence the certificates give people. Many times people who have very low digital literacy skills are afraid of breaking the computer, or they're afraid of wiping out all the information. And so this gives them an objective way to say that they actually know what they're doing. So I've had people who start crying when they get them. I've had people give me high fives. People, put them on their refrigerator. One student recently contacted his instructor. The student had passed all of the Northstar assessments, and he had just moved to a new apartment, and he wanted certificates for all of them so he could frame them and decorate his apartment with the certificates. So it's just really cool. So even if you don't use Northstar, I highly recommend that you find a way to, adults really oftentimes don't see the progress that they're making. And so the more that you can help people in their educational pursuit see that is very powerful. We've also seen it help with other educational pursuits and persistence. So, learning English or getting your GED, these are really long-term educational pursuits. Northstar is a much shorter win. And so we have seen, for example, in a prison, they were teaching the prisoners GED skills. And the prisoners, it happened to be an all men's prison, and mostly younger men in this class. They didn't really see the value in studying all that much for the GED. At the same time, coincidentally, the instructors introduced Northstar, and the guys felt that they all had cell phones, that they could pass this easily, but cell phones aren't the same as computers, and they didn't pass. And luckily, they saw this as a challenge. So they started, with the instruction, they learned, and they could see with the assessments, the progress that they made. And it really transferred over to persisting for the GED, because they saw that they they had that, power to learn, that they put the time and the effort in, and they were able to change their scores. And that really made a big difference. And we see that in many different situations. So, oops. Here is one of our students, a typical student that we see, and you can see he's holding many of the certificates. He passed them all. And a lot of students like to have you can print just one certificate with, listing them all, but they like to have an individual certificate. Again, that pride factor to show that, I can do this. He is a typical student that we see at our computer school, in that he had worked as a auto mechanic for his whole career, and then just got to a point where he physically couldn't do it. And he wanted to stay in the industry and do, work for an auto supply store, but really had pretty low digital literacy skills. So he came to our school. He ended up passing all the, studying and passing all the Northstar assessments and getting a job with Napa Auto Parts. So kind of fulfilled his dream there, which was very cool. So how do organizations use the assessments? A lot of times they'll give an assessment as a pre-assessment. And, if you're using the free version, just give it as it is. If you're using the subscription version, most people don't proctor the pre-assessment. Then they'll see what instructional needs are there and provide those, and then give a post-assessment, often proctored if you have the subscription. But even if you don't, you can the learners can see their progress in the scores. And so it will help you to, see what's been learned and what still needs to be learned. Also, organizations often use it to prepare their own staff. So a lot of times I encounter teachers who aren't comfortable with digital literacy themselves, or don't feel comfortable teaching it. Maybe they've never had to. A lot of us are self-taught in digital literacy. And so we might feel like, well, I can do what I need to do to get around in my daily life, but I don't know if I can teach it. So the assessments are a really great way to prepare your staff so that they feel confident in teaching. They can see, what they know, what they need to learn, and then learn it, and then they're able to teach. You can do proctoring. If you choose to do proctoring, you can do it remotely or in person. People can definitely take the assessments on the free version, from wherever they are. They don't have to be at your school to take the assessments. Any questions about the assessments before we kind of move on? Okay. I'm now going to talk about the instructor-led curricula. And for the most part, this is in the subscription, but the supporting K-12 distance learning curricula is available for free on our website. So if that's something that you would find interesting, you can just download it, and that's free on our website. And I'll show you the free website, later on in this talk. So the goal of Northstar is that we would have instructor-led curricula for each of the assessments that we have. And we currently have 12 of the 14 completed. The team is now working on information literacy, and that should be done by mid-November. And then your digital footprint will be the last one. The curriculum is aligned with those Northstar standards, as is everything. And it's very easy to use from an instructor standpoint. So we in our school have even volunteer instructors using it. It's every lesson plan is the same. They're all laid out the same. There's a lot of resources to tell you how to use the different components in the lesson, although I think they're pretty easy to use anyway. And it's also very learner-centered. So it was created for adults. It tries to look at what they might find interesting. And when I had the chance to teach this before the pandemic and it was a intermediate English language learner class, and we were working on internet basics. And almost everybody in the class said to me, I have always wanted to learn how to do this, but I was too embarrassed to ask someone, to show me how to do it. So they were really committed. It was a night class, and they came after work or after taking care of kids all day. So it was really, heartwarming to see. I even had someone who over our break, our holiday break, I'm in Minnesota. I was in a public housing unit. So, people didn't have a lot of extra cash. But she was able to fly to Florida to see family for the holidays. And she came back on a 2 a.m. flight to Minnesota. And our class was at night. And so I thanked her. I'm like, thank you so much. You must be so tired. I'm glad you came to the class. And she said, well, I could have come back the next day during the afternoon, half the price, but I didn't want to miss this class. And so, it just goes to show how important these skills are to the people in the class. It's also very interactive. It's very hard to learn digital literacy through lecture alone. You actually need to do it. And so this curriculum gives a lot of practice, a lot of repetition, which really helps people hone their skills and their confidence. The lessons are very independent, so you can use them, you don't have to do a whole unit. You can pull what you need. You can bring them into your ABE and your ELL classes as part of another topic. Digital literacy can be infused to just about everything. And so, again, can fit into what your program is doing. So there's about 8 lesson plans per unit topic on average. And the developers of the curriculum felt that it would take about 2 hours to do each lesson plan. So if you did the whole unit topic, it would be about 15, 16 hours. Again, you may not need to because of what your students know or what the time limits you have. I found that when I taught the class, it was a smaller class, but pretty low digital literacy skills, intermediate English language skills, and it only took us about an hour and a half to do each lesson. So it kind of depends and it was in person, not remote. Every unit also, we have alignment maps to show how Northstar is aligned with the college and career readiness standards, as well as more like the soft skills that are needed for employment. But then there's also each unit has a final project that is fully aligned with college and career readiness standards, that has learners reading several different paragraphs, close reading, really delving into them, and then using what they've learned from the readings as well as what they've learned in the digital literacy lesson to create a final project. You can use the lessons for one-on-one. So if you have volunteers or tutors, they can definitely use the lessons. And you can also use them to do remote teaching if you're not in person yet, or if you plan to stay remote. Each lesson, so our curriculum developers are adult educators. And so they looked at best practices in adult learning to develop the lessons and incorporated that. So each lesson includes a warm-up. As you know, adults come with a lot of wisdom, and we want to tap into that and then kind of marry it with the new information they're going to learn. There's also a portion where they're looking at the objectives in student-friendly language. Adults really like to know what they're going to learn and how it's relevant to them. Then there's a piece where the instructor will model the skill and explain what they're doing. And then the class, does it together. So the instructor can make sure that everyone is understanding and able to do the skill. And ultimately, each person does the task on their own. And then they, come together and look at, did they meet those objectives? And then, there's digital literacy vocabulary kind of infused in the whole lesson, of course. This is an example of what the first page of each lesson plan looks like. So you can see over here on the left-hand side, it shows you what standards are in this lesson. And we have for every unit topic, we have a nice scope and sequence document that shows you all the standards and then would show you where you can find what lessons you can find those standards in. So if you're looking to teach your class about how to fill out an online form, you can see, that standard, let's say 9, and you can find it in lesson 10 or whatever that might be. So it can help you hone what you're looking to teach and where to find it. On the right-hand side, you see the vocabulary in this lesson. In the middle, the technology concepts. That's really the objectives written in instructor language, as well as any teaching tips you might need to know. And then the bottom, then this is really just telling you what you need to copy, or if you're doing it remotely, you would click on those links to show those handouts on the screen to your learners. So as we kind of delve into it, here is an example of that warm-up. So this is showing you, this is asking people what they already know about financial and personal information, how to keep it safe, and kind of getting people talking and thinking about the topic. And then as an instructor, you can go back to this and say, do you remember when we said you have to keep Social Security information safe, whatever. The We Will Learn section, I will admit that when I first taught this, I thought, I'll just write these on the board and then, we'll quickly go over them and we'll be done. The students in my class loved this. They wanted to write all these down in their notebooks. They were intermediate English language learners. They wanted to practice pronouncing the sentences out loud. They wanted to talk about any of the vocabulary they didn't know. So even though the class I was leading was intended to just be digital literacy, it ended up having this English language component at the beginning of every lesson, which was like people were really engaged, and it was just a great way to start off the lesson. So again, digital literacy is just another topic you can incorporate into your English language instruction or your ABE instruction. This is an example of that model and explain. So you can see it's telling the instructor what to do and what to say and how to say it. So that's great because it maintains consistency, throughout your program. And also many of us who feel fairly digitally literate, we may know how to do things, but we may not know what things are called. And if I was talking to a group of students and I said, at one point called something the blue ribbon, and the next time I called it the blue bar, that would be very confusing to them. So this helps maintain that consistency in terminology. But also, it's hard for those of us who have been, feel fairly comfortable with computers to remember what it's like to not know how to turn on a computer or not know how to use a mouse. And so we need that language to be able to talk to people who don't have those skills so that they understand, and we're not using jargon or, relying on information that they actually don't have. So for example, if I said to someone who didn't know how to search on the internet, if I said, click on the link, it's not going to mean anything to them, right? But it's something that I probably do 100 times a day. So it's again this is helping us bring us back to that starting point, so we can really work with learners where they're at rather than where we're at. Here's an example of a handout that this is a handout that the class would do together. And so you can see that if you wanted to incorporate more, reading skills into this, you could look at pronunciation skills. You could look at reading comprehension. You could look at writing full sentences. And then the other thing I want to point out is that if you look at the first names here, Northstar in all that it does, so in the pictures and the videos and the names, tries to incorporate people from a variety of different cultures with the hope that when someone is using Northstar, they're going to see someone that they identify with in Northstar. Any questions about the instructor-led curriculum before we move on? Okay. So I'm going to next talk about the self-directed online learning. And this is something that you can see there's 6 of the 14 completed. 4 of those 6 are available for free on our website. And then of course, all 6 are available within the subscription. And the ones that are available for free are the basic computer, using email, Microsoft Word, and career search skills. And we did this mostly because of the pandemic, and we felt so many people were losing jobs. These were skills that they could use to hopefully find jobs. We are now working on Excel, and that will be done by the end of the year. And then the next one up would be social media. But the plan is that we would have all 14 at some point. If you are a Northstar subscriber, just to let you know that as we develop, the subscription is an annual subscription. And it's about, if you're a single site, a single school, it's $500 a year. But anything new that we developed while you're a subscriber for during that year or ongoing is added in for free. So you don't have to pay for extra things that we develop. You don't have to opt in. It's put into your Northstar admin portal, and then you're notified by email about what it is and any relevant training that we have available. So I want to show you what the self-directed online learning looks like. It's the easiest way for you to understand what I'm talking about. And so I am going to show you you'll see a picture of a laptop. You'll see some words above it. And then you should hear a voice reading those words. Sometimes, depending on how your own device is set up, you may not hear the woman reading.
Teresa, your audio dropped out. I'm not sure if that's intentional. Teresa, can you hear me? Your audio dropped out.
She's completely frozen.
Yes. So we can see you moving, but when you loaded whatever you were loading, all of a sudden your audio dropped out. So hold on, let me see if I can message her to see if we may be able to get this restarted. Sometimes when you leave and come back, it does work. I will see if we can do that. Just be patient with us.
It appears that she logged out or got booted, so I will let her back in here in just a second.
Thank you, Stacy. That is usually the quickest wins. Jump off and jump back in and don't do whatever you did to do it.
It's the virtual way of turn it off and turn it back on.
Yep. It's taking a little bit longer. I'm hoping that she'll be able to rejoin us soon. She did say that she was attempting to rejoin us in the chat. In the meantime, while we're working through this little technical difficulty, if there are any questions that you would like for her to answer when she comes back, now will be a good time to start placing them in the chat because we will be running toward the end of this session very soon. Hopefully she'll be able to rejoin us and we'll have questions for this wonderful presentation that she is presenting for us. Teresa's had to do a hard reboot on her computer. If any of you have ever gone through that, that means you shut it all the way down, wait for it to shut off, and then you have to start all the way over. She has one of those wonderful Boss computers. The startup is not that bad. Hopefully she'll rejoin us soon. I did say I would cue the Jeopardy music, but I have absolutely no intention of doing that. That was meant for her benefit alone.
Michael,
Yes.
this is Christy Nelson from Northwest Michigan Works. It might be appropriate just to say here that our region has the full access of their software, and all of our students, when they come in and register, they're required to have 3 of the basic skills. We've determined 3 of the assessments. So everybody takes the assessments when they come in and then have to work to mastery on those 3 levels before they leave. We add additional ones depending upon their career goal, but it's really been a useful tool. And what she was about to show us, most of our students are in and work to earn those skills. So it's really cool.
Thank you, Christy. It's good to be able to hear that it's being used successfully in the field. We use it here at the Kalamazoo Literacy Council as well. Probably use the same assessments as part of our computer class, but we also make it available for all of our adult learners because digital literacy impacts learners across multiple programs and multiple levels. It's really a great resource.
Absolutely.
Do your learners, do they print out the certificates in the
Well,
same way ours do?
we do, but what we're doing right now is we're teaching them how to earn badges and so that they can use them on their resumes as proofs of digital literacy.
And it's wonderful. Being able to have those short-term badges is a great way to be able to inspire confidence, as Teresa was saying. But it's also a great way to show employers that you have validated skill. So it's an incredibly wonderful resource. And I'm sure Cheryl, she will make sure that you have information on the free or low cost. I know if you go to the website, a lot of that information is available. So if you go to the link that was provided, you should be able to get the information for the free version. And if you so choose, get the subscription version so you'll have the expanded range of awesomeness.
When you have the anybody can access the lessons and the certificates just on the website. I mean, the assessments just on the website. But when you have the expanded version, we can actually track student hours in the software. So we're using, some of them who are high school completion, we can actually track their hours and they go towards a credit.
Yes, and you can use this both in a classroom and also in a home environment. We have our learners learning virtually as well as in person in front of us. So it's pretty versatile. There was a question in the chat about that.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you I don't know what just happened there, and I apologize for that. But I hope you had a chance to hear about Michael. I need to get screen sharing capability again, or go to the bathroom or whatever you did. So let's continue. I was talking about the self-directed online learning, and I was about to show you what that looked like. So let's get back to that place. And again, I apologize. I'm not sure what happened. I saw that my face like froze in a kind of unflattering look, and then I couldn't do anything. So I had to do a hard reboot. So, all right, here we go. Let's take a look at this self-directed online learning. And I'm just going to make sure you can hear it.
If you look closely at the outside of a computer, you will see buttons and many small holes. These holes are usually called ports. Each port has a specific shape for different uses and different types of plugs.
So if you can hear her talking, you heard that she spoke fairly slowly and clearly. And you can replay the audio as many times as you want. You can slow it down, you can speed it up, you can turn it off. There's closed captioning. So it's intended for a variety of different learning styles. And the way the Northstar self-directed online learning is set up is you'll have these instructional pieces, but then, like I said, it's hard to learn digital literacy if you're not doing it. So I want to show you, I'm going to click on the next button and I'm going to show you a practice piece.
Here is a flash drive that you can plug into a computer. Click on the port that matches it.
So then the learner would, if they clicked here, it would tell them, yep, this is a USB port. If they had clicked on the headphone jack, it would say, no, this is a headphone jack. Look for something that, more matches the size. And so then the way the self-directed online learning is set up is you'll have this kind of instruction practice for a couple of standards. And then there'll be a quiz. And the quiz will say, you're ready to go on in the module or go back and review what you've just learned. And then there'll be many segments like this of a few standards and this little quiz. And then at the very end of the module, you have another quiz that will say you're ready to go on to the assessment or go back and review X, Y, and Z. So again, it's very tailored to each individual. And each module, I would say, takes on average about 90 minutes to go through. On the free version, you have to have 90 minutes, at a chunk of time. So if you stop halfway through, you're gonna have to start at the beginning again. If you're using the subscription version, you can save your progress. So we have a lot of learners who will work on this over their break at work, and they'll do maybe 10 minutes every day. And so it will save your progress and let you know, start up where you left off. For blind students, there is the audio, but then, I guess you wouldn't see the screen. So I know that people do use them with blind students, and there are, it is ADA compatible in that way. And there is more information on our website about that. That was a question in the chat. All right, so when a learner is using the self-directed online learning through an organization, they also have a dashboard that will show them what they've done. So I want to show you, this is what the learner dashboard would look like. And what they will see is, you can see here, all of the assessments are here on the dashboard. And if someone wants to take an assessment, it's as easy as clicking, right there. What you can see here is, let's look at the internet basics in purple. The outer ring is showing the learner, graphically, how much of the assessment, what percentage of the assessment they passed. So if you remember that results page I showed you, it was at like 85.8%. And so this is showing that graphically. And then the inner circle is showing them what percentage of the Northstar self-directed online learning they've done. So in this case, the learner, passed with 85%. They've done about 13% of the practice. So you could presume that they've done the practice, the piece that they missed on the assessment. This is really nice for instructors because you can then give assignments. So you can say, I'd like you to all work on doing 50% of the email self-directed online learning before we have our next class, for example. If the student were to click on details, the arrow here, and go to the standards tab, this shows them what standards they missed. And then over here on the right, if they've done the self-directed online learning piece or not yet. Now they can always go back, even if they pass something, they can always go back and practice it. They can do the entire module up here where it says start practice at the top if they want to. And then if they go to the practice tab, these are actually those standards I was telling you about. And so they can just go to a specific topic and study that. So let's say they pass this assessment, then maybe 6 months later, they want to apply for a job online. And they're thinking, oh, I kind of forgot how to, fill out that online form. They can come back here, click on where it says fill out an online form, review that part in the self-directed online learning, and then apply for the job. So as long as the site has access to Northstar, the subscription site, then the learners have access to Northstar. So it's really, really nice, again, for each individual. As instructors, you can also see what's going on with your individual learners. And so this is what it would look like for an instructor to be looking at what someone was doing. So here you can see the individual, and under module, if you hover over that, it will tell you what the icons represent. Best score is what it sounds like. It will list the top score in each assessment, and it will tell you though how many times they've tried to take it. In green, you can see it's color coded. In the ones in green have been passed, and if it's in yellow, it hasn't been passed. Under the practice lesson, this shows you what percentage of that self-directed online learning they've done. And then it tells you if they have, if they passed, if they got a badge, if it was proctored or not. And then here's where, if it was proctored and they passed, you could print that certificate for them. In Northstar, if you ever see an eye icon, it means there's more information. So if you click on that, this will show you what specific standards they did not pass on this assessment, and if they've done the practice for them or not. And if you scroll down to the very bottom, it will tell you, when they took the assessment, if it was proctored, who proctored it, what their score was. And again, if you click on this eye and scroll down to the bottom, this will tell you what actual questions they missed. So if this learner is having a hard time passing this assessment and you're not really sure why, this can give you some insights into maybe topics that they're having difficulty with or patterns that you might be seeing. And of course, you might say to me, well, I don't remember what question 23 is, right? But if you click on it, that question will come up. And you can see in this case, it's kind of about fishing, really. And I would never tell you to teach the test, but this just gives you insight into what might be confusing your learners. Or maybe you're seeing that the question is asking for 3 answers and they're only choosing 1 or something like that. So it can just give you some insight as to what this learner is experiencing.
Teresa, we're getting to the end of this magical moment. There is one question about price again before we close out.
Okay.
Apologize for this inconvenience that we
I know.
have. We want to make sure we get that question. It was about price.
So the price is it's a year-long subscription, and if you are an individual school, it would be $500 a year. If you are, let's say, a school, if you are an organization that has, like us, has 5 schools, we would discount it. So for anywhere from 3 to 6 schools or sites, it's $1,200. And then if you have more than, if you're like looking for a statewide license, then of course we work with you and give you a bigger discount. Sorry again for the technical difficulties. I want to point you to the free website, and it will tell you a lot more about Northstar. So that's this www.digitalliteracyassessment.org. And here is where you can take those free assessments. So please do that. It's just here under the green, take an assessment. You can also, under build your skills, if you see more, this number 2, those are those free self-directed online learning. So, go through them, see what they're like if you want to. And thank you again for having me at your conference.
Once again, thank you, Teresa, for sharing this incredibly wonderful resource. I know that there are many agencies that use it and many more that would like to. Again, for those who are attending our conference, we appreciate you being a part of it. Stay connected and be active. We look forward to seeing you in future sessions. And thanks again to our wonderful presenter, Teresa. This has been great.
All right, thank you. Well, have a great rest of your conference.